Bimini has always been known for its mangroves. It's been known for its ocean life, the marine life that really captures visitors and residents to be a part of such a dynamic ecosystem. So when I was chosen to become the Bimini Coastal Waterkeeper, especially because I've had strong ties with Bimini, my paternal grandfather is from Bimini, I thought to focus on one ecosystem. And the mangrove ecosystem is a dynamic ecosystem that brings so much life to this island. It brings life through its counts, through the sharks, and just watching the professionals on the island be able to navigate through those systems for bone fishing. We had the opportunity to meet with a few of the high school students from both schools, from Gateway Christian Academy as well as Louis McDonald High School, and just trying to get a feel from them of what they understand about the mangroves, what these systems are doing for the island. And it was good to understand from them that they know that these trees or these plants are a sustainable way of life to protect them from storm surges and hurricanes. Knowing that at least is a good start, because they have an appreciation for what the mangrove systems are doing for them in terms of protection, and not only for being nurseries for marine life. And so once they understand that, they will understand the reason for this exercise over the next few days. And so it's good to have them involved in this. It's good to have them to be a part of the planting exercise, understanding why we've chosen a site to collect the mangroves from and then have them replanted. The experience of going through the Bonefish Creek alone was just breathtaking. There aren't that many words that can describe what it meant to us, knowing that in the next 15 or 20 years, these small saplings of red mangroves that we're planting is going to have such a major effect. And just looking at the beauty that they will have in this area where we're planting. So that Bonefish Creek was a good example, especially for a lot of the students that participated with us who have not in their life of living in Bimini been able to go to that area before this week's activities. So it was good to be a part of it with them, just to look at their faces, just to see it light up, just for them to even talk about what it meant for them. And so for me, it's twofold, knowing that we'll have such a major positive impact on a small island like Bimini, and the memories that we're creating for those high school students, and to be a part of such a great project.
My name is Brian Roll, and my planting experience is really great. It's a good thing that we really planted these mangroves out here, because otherwise if we left them where they were, they would have gotten destroyed. And they'll help strengthen our island's protection from hurricanes, strong winds and all of that. The experience was really fun. We got to plant over 200 mangroves plus, and there was a lot of digging involved and a lot of roots. Some of these mangroves were so impressive that they survived while we planted the first set yesterday. We came back and they still held up strong. They held up against the waves while we were planting them. A lot of trampling, feet and everything, they still held up. I want them to remember 10 years from now that mangroves are still important, regardless of how we feel like we will survive without them. Our ecosystem can't thrive without mangroves, and a lot of our fish population will decrease without mangroves. We wouldn't have much food. The Bahamas will be really run down without our mangroves.
This whole experience made me feel like I'm helping the environment a lot, and I'm helping a lot of people. and it made me feel like I'm helping the environment and the waters and the land and the trees.
I think that mangroves are very important to our Bahamas because it helps with the waves and it really helps overall with the fishes, and we really want to eat fish.
I was excited and to learn about mangroves and how they impact the island. It was easier to do the ones closer on shore, but the ones more in the water were harder to dig because the sand and water was keep filling back in. It makes me feel that I am helping the island more and that the island would be a more safer place in terms of like storms coming in, that the mangroves will protect the island from the storms. Animals could have their young and in the mangroves. I would like that for the future generations to come, that they would hopefully plant more mangroves in different areas so that the island can prosper.
This week we focused on just the red mangroves, or in scientific terms, the rhizophora mango. And the reason why we focused on them is because they are the stronger ones. In the Bahamas, there are the four main mangroves, which are the red, the black, the white, and the buttonwood. But the beauty in the red mangroves, looking at their roots and how their roots just able to just find their way into the water and to find solid foundation to be able to do what is necessary for them to be those protectors. And not only that, it's because the mangroves themselves do such a good job with cleaning the water. And it really ties into what the Waterkeeper Alliance focus is, and that's on clean water and protecting those ecosystems that are able to provide clean water for us today and for generations tomorrow. So it really ties into the vision of what Waterkeeper Bahamas wants the public to be aware of, especially on Bimini, Grand Bahama, and New Providence, where we have Waterkeepers present. And so this project is, I think, a prototype for the type of projects that we would want to do in the future.
The experience that we've had over the last couple of days working with young people, a number of adults in this whole project of planting of mangroves. Now Bimini, as has been explained by Rashema, it has a plethora, expansive mangroves. Unfortunately, hundreds of acres, up to like 740 acres of mangroves have been destroyed in the name of development. And so that has caused a lot of pain for environmental organizations. And when we had this chance actually to do a mangrove planting project, a mangrove regeneration project, of course, we chose Bimini as a site right away in order to send a very clear message to the entire Bahamas that mangroves are eternally important for the environment, as has been explained. In order to do this particular project, we not only needed young people in order to be trained in the importance of mangroves in the project itself, in the way we carried it out, but we also needed to determine a site that would be relevant, that would be protected, and that we were assured would not be devastated by strong winds, tides, and possibly by hurricanes. In addition to that, we needed to find a place from which we were going to get the young mangroves, and we hit upon a very, divinely guided site. And that site was actually where, after destruction of all of those mangroves that I spoke about, the propagules, or the little babies from the red mangroves, actually floated into different areas. And even though they were near where the construction would be continuing and carried out, nonetheless, they cried for regeneration themselves. And so they settled into the substrata, into the mud. And actually, over the last 5-6 years, they have grown into good transplantable plants. And so we said, well, here we go. We can rescue these babies and we can take them to the sites where we can do our project. And the two sites, the site that we chose was one that was on the East Wells in Bimini, and it was away from the prevailing winds or the southeast winds, and also major hurricanes come from that direction as well. And so we brought the project around into the protective, almost like a harbor area, and those were the two sites that we chose. And in that particular project, we were able to garner somewhere like 500 young plants, succulents, so you might want to call them, or baby plants, or that came from propagules, or the mangrove babies. And we instructed our people, the students as well as the adults, how to do it properly. And in terms of coming from the high tide, going all the way into the tidal area and actually into the water. And so we had a particular method as to how we would plant in the not dry sand but wet sand, because the high tide come up into that area, but also how to do it within the water itself, because we want to make sure that some of the mangroves, the young mangroves, were actually permanently in water, whether high tide or low tide. And so it was an absolute joy to watch the old heads like myself and all of the students and our helpers on their knees, digging by hand, sometimes with a shovel, digging by hands to put these precious little plants down into the substrate, cover them up carefully again, support them at times with some conch shells to make sure that tides or winds would not disturb them. And so it was a marvelous, unbelievably glorious experience, and one that I would like to see carried out throughout the Bahamas, wherever there may be danger to our precious mangroves. One of the amazing things that we noticed, and actually we wanted to make sure that the mangroves planted, the young mangroves, would be stabilized. When tidal waves come in, or simply low tide and high tide exchanging, that there would be no serious impact for the uprooting of the young mangroves. And we actually accidentally did a test on the second day along the first day's planting, when we came in with the boat and a huge wave just washed up among basically all of the mangroves that we had planted, and actually not a one quivered, except just side to side, little swaying, but not one single one was uprooted. So that gives us a good indication that with weather, with swells, with sea, with tide changes and so forth, that these mangroves are stable, and we will probably look for about a 75 to 80% that would actually prosper in that particular area.
I'm a Bimini, and I just was taking part in regrowing some of the mangrove in a safe area, and I realize how important the mangrove is here in Bimini because it protects us from the hurricane force winds, and also it provides fresh fish, on our plates when we go fishing. All these fish and marine animals, and it's just a habitat. Like, it's the mangrove, the habitat, they need that to survive and to keep on, reproducing, the average numbers every year to keep so many animals within the area, Now, some animals we probably already lost, like I ain't see a seahorse in a long time, but we still have a few, but we don't have as much as we had in the past. And then, the turtles, we still have some, the sharks, we have some, but the environment is so important to preserve. Reason why is because we want every Bahamian to have this experience, because some islands, they don't have as much mangrove as Bimini or Freeport or Andros. And some part of Andros or the whole west side of Andros protected with the black and red mangrove, because whoever is doing the survey inside these other islands realize how important the mangrove is to the Bahamians and to the marine life and to the coral reef and to anything when you're talking about nature. And I know how important the mangrove is, so I even get my kids to come out to be a part of the new mangrove grow would we start. And they even realize how important it is, because they learning as they go. I learning as I go. And we just have good times when we go and they see a stingray or they see a turtle or they see a shark. It ain't just about catching these animals all the time. It's just seeing them and seeing how they just survive and strive and move and swim and But even though the kids realize how important it is, we need the developers and the government and whoever behind all this further development with these foreign investors, because the only person feeling the effect from these drastic changes, the locals, the fishermen, the tourists don't really realize or really know what this place was one time ago when you're talking about marine animals or the mangrove habitat or even the wetland habitat. These areas is home to burrow owls. We rarely to see the burrow owls around here because the habitat was being taken away from them. The Bimini boa snakes, the sawfish, all of these animals, their habitat being used by humans and billing, and they getting forced away. We even had a species, a seabird, what used to nest in Bimini. You can't find one family of this type of bird anymore. It's because the whole shoreline has been taken away from private homeowners, but one day someone will realize how important is it, and then I hope they make the right changes. But in the future, a lot of people being more educated and more aware of how important this environment is. So we had a lot of volunteers come out and give us a hand, like I say, including my kids. I realize how important the mangrove is, so I give my volunteer hand to help with whatever I could help with. But my kids even had a good time. I didn't know it was, I didn't know it would have been so fun just replanting mangrove, but we had a good time. We dig a lot of holes and we put a lot of mangrove in the ground, and hopefully in 100 years time we should have some mangrove forests in that area. But like I say, it was fun. We had a good time. We had the support from the Shark Lab, and everyone was on board my boat. We had a good trip. Everyone was smiling, showing their back teeth, We had a good time, and like I say, we as Biminites need to know how important the environment is, because we facing sea level rise today, tomorrow, and into the future.
All of this came together so beautifully. We were able to work on a plan with Water Wash Projects, and that's Lillian Ball, who contacted us. And we've been talking about working on a mangrove planting project for a few years under the Waterkeepers Bahamas umbrella. And so when Lillian reached out to us, it was almost like divine intervention. And so the two organizations really understood that we needed to bring the locals together to get them to understand the harmonious coexistence of the mangroves and the people. And it was ideal for us. It was ideal for her because with her projects that she's worked on in Nepal and in New York, she's brought an artistic point of view to the environment. And she considers herself an ecological artist. And we consider ourselves passionate environmentalists. And so it was a great balance. And being able to come here and to see what my grandfather has instilled in me from this very island was so important to me, and it was moving. And knowing that we have the support of Lewis McDonald High School with their principal, the art teacher, the science teacher, who brought together very passionate young people. Those who want to be marine biologists and those who want to be artists. So this was the perfect project. And then talking to the students at Gateway Christian Academy and just letting them know what our intentions were and seeing whether or not they would be stimulated by this project was still significant for us. Knowing too that we had the support of the Bimini Shark Lab, which has been doing a lot of work with sharks here, and they understand the very diverse ecosystems, the diverse marine life, and so for them to see it as important for them to be involved in community engagements and to take on this partnership with us was very good for us, to know that we had support of scientists who are out there in the field on a regular basis. So the mangroves, again, are land builders, and we are a part of being land builders or helping these lands to be built. And it's not for us, it's not for me, because the effects of this project today won't be seen in my lifetime, and it definitely won't be seen in the lifetime of Joe. But we're doing this for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, where they will be able to see a replenished mangrove system in Bimini, a diverse and beautiful array of sharks, of barracudas, of jellyfish, of the birds, the pelicans and the herons, the reptiles. It's so much diversity, and the sounds of all of these animals coming together is really what the Waterkeeper Bahamas is really trying to instill in Bahamians, as well as send that message out there to the rest of the world.